Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Podcast Live. We are back. It is the last day of the month of September in the year 2020. I've been saying this for, I don't know, since March when I started doing these kind of daily, weekly live streams. But welcome, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. It is the last day of Q3 of 2020, which is insane to say. I am thrilled to welcome my first guest today, Dennis Mortensen. He is the CEO and founder of x.ai. And we'll get to that. Look, can I pull that up? Oh, it didn't work there. It didn't work. Dennis, welcome to the show, my man. How you doing?
Thanks much for having me. I'm happy.
Where are we talking to today? Where are you? There's a real interesting background there. I see some lighting, some glass. Are you in a diner? Are you home? What are we looking at behind you?
Good question. This is my favorite meeting room on 200 Broadway inside a WeWork. There's some sort of Blade Runner feel to it, right?
Right.
I wish this was the backdrop of my apartment. It is not. It's actually the Fulton Center. So it's a transport hub in downtown Manhattan.
So that's pretty cool. So you're in a WeWork, right? What's the atmosphere there? Are there a lot of people? Is stuff happening? What's the vibe?
No, it's me and 150,000 square feet and a girl at the lobby, and that's it.
So you basically have a whole office to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember we were talking about this. We chatted a couple of weeks ago and we connected. And it's like, why not? If you feel comfortable about it, the world is your oyster in Manhattan right now. In a time when it used to be limited space, everyone on top of each other. I mean, you pretty much have the run of the space there, right?
You can go wild. And I've never been a huge fan of this romance of signing up for a 5-year lease. Right. Which is why we ended up at a WeWork. So we grew initially from 2 to 5 to 10 to 90 people inside a WeWork. And most people will kind of suggest, Dennis, that sounds crazy. You must go out and sign a lease. To me, signing a lease, that sounds crazy. As in, right? Why would you get married to a building? As in, it's difficult to get married to another human being. A building, just don't do it, man. I want something which is as easy as Amazon. You spin up a room, you delete it. You spin up another room, you delete it. And that's
right.
That.
And you don't want to get caught cheating on your room. I mean, that's a bad luck, right? I mean, you want to be loyal to your room and you want to be. So let's bring everyone up to speed here. And I would love if you could kind of let us into your world. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do best, and then we'll unpack.
I am, first and foremost, an entrepreneur. So I am 24 years into my entrepreneurial endeavors. 5th venture, spent about 5 years on each. Of the 4 prior ones, we've been so lucky to have 3 exits and 1 that didn't pan out. We are now 5.5 years into this particular venture, which is x.ai, and the whole idea of making meeting scheduling easier. And I think we're off to a good start. And who am I? I'm really just a happy tech kid. As in, if you ask me, I made a few monies along the way and that's all good and fine. I just want really a nice cold Diet Coke, a good laptop, Wi-Fi that's working, and I'm done. As in, that's the end of my list. That's all I need.
That's your rider. Your rider is short. You need Diet Coke, good laptop, and good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I feel you on that one. So before we talk about x.ai and what you guys do there, I want to talk about your own entrepreneurship journey, which is interesting because, there's a couple schools of thought, right? There's folks that say you don't need college, you don't need a formal education, and you could kind of learn, on the go. You could learn, on the job versus, having a formal education, learning the foundational pieces, the elements. What school do you come from?
So I have a CS degree myself, and as my daughters are both in college and the last one is applying to college as we speak, I could go back to school tomorrow. As in, I just found the whole experience super fun. That aside though, I do think you need to start your journey on some expertise. That expertise might not be extracted from school, it might be extracted from somewhere else, right. But if you start out blank on all dimensions, that seems like a dangerous path. So at least get started, bring something to the party and build on that. I don't think you need to be the best people manager in the world. You can be super awkward and introvert, not know how to speak to people, not speak to them at all, shout all the time, but you'll figure it out. But you need to at least bring one thing. And what you see many, certainly tech people do, is that they bring a technical expertise. They don't know shit about shit, but at least they can code. And if you can do that, well, the rest I will learn, either because people keep quitting their jobs. I'm probably a shitty boss. I should do that better, or some other thing. So figure out what is that particular superpower that you bring, and then build on top of that.
So let's talk about your first venture. I mean, you came out of CS school, right? What was that first startup? What was that first job when you were young?
Here's the funny story. Given I
only want funny stories. I don't like boring stories. I don't like lame stories here.
So I wish I could tell you that since I was 4, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it was the complete opposite, because my dad, my uncles, my cousins are all entrepreneurs. So all I wanted was to go get my computer science degree and go work for IBM. So I'm Scandinavian, and that means you go work for IBM, you get home at 4, you get 7 weeks of vacation, and just live the good, what you guys over here would call socialist life of Scandinavia. And you know what, hey, I won life's lottery. I was born in a fortunate place, just stick to it. But as I did game development for a few monies in college, that company ended up going bankrupt just as I was about to kind of finalize that last title. And in, bitterness, spite, confusion, I acquired the assets of that company. Not for much. It sounds like some sort of Gotha and Gecko story. That's not it. It was really just acquiring a pool of code. And when they came back with refinancing, they figured out one of the engineers that acquired the code, and I sold it back to the company and made what I thought was a fortune. In hindsight, it was not. But even with that kind of, pool of money in hand, I thought, you know what? Let me go do a startup, lose it all quickly, and then go work for IBM. And I started an internet company in the mid-90s. And if you ever want to start an internet company, the mid-90s was probably a good time. So instead of losing that money, I ended up actually getting out on the right side of the dot-com boom. So I sold my company in April 2000 when NASDAQ was above 5,000 and the whole thing was kind of in my favor. So that's the beginning of the story, and it wasn't supposed to be, but I think in the end, and you and me could turn this into a 4-hour kind of seminar. In the end, we end up just like our moms and dads, whether we like it or not. We try to escape it, but in the end, I'm just like my dad.
How so?
He was an entrepreneur. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but you guess what? I am. My dad kind of was in sales. I wanted to be, a computer scientist, the kind of opposite of in sales. You know what? If I look at my primary role as a CEO and founder, I'm fucking selling everybody. As in, I'm selling investors, candidates, customers, leads, press. I'm selling everybody all the time. Well, got that from my dad as well. So I think we just end up looking like the people we grew up with.
It's interesting too. I mean, both my parents are teachers. They're educators. They're in New York City Board of Ed. My brother's in the education system. He's a guidance counselor at the high school we went to, which is kind of crazy there too. So I don't think from a career perspective I ended up like them. But there's so many other character traits and skills that I did pick up from my parents. Empathy, caring, all those kind of soft skills. So I find it incredibly. I'm definitely grateful for those too. So let's talk a little bit about x.ai. Tell us a little bit about what the product is. And then I'd love to hear, and I think we talked about it briefly when we chatted offline, like how did it start?
The pain that we're trying to remove is the pain that arrives with that email that is in your inbox as we speak saying, hey, Adam, I'm going to be in town 2 weeks from now. Do you got time to meet up? And you know almost instantly whether you want to meet up with that individual or not. But what you don't want to do is that little song and dance of trying to figure out. So exactly, when are you here? Oh,
I'm laughing.
Thursday, are you then in the city, or do I need to kind of come to where you're at? Oh, if you can come down to me, that would be great. Can you do 3? Or no, can you do 3:30? Sure.
Back and forth, the tango, the scheduling tango, as we like to call it.
Yeah, and it's not that it's difficult. It's just yet another chore that I'd rather really be without. So that's the pain that we're trying to remove. Well, you can remove that in many ways. You can win the corporate lottery and get a human being called Tom who will sit and manage your calendar. Right. Well, there goes 60K. So not that. If not that, then you can try to do a couple of other things. I need to kind of expose my availability, and we allow you to do so. And you can do that in many ways. You can do that simply by sharing a calendar page. Well, that is one way to expose your availability.
Right, true.
Copy and paste your availability directly into the email. Sure, that's another way. Or you can CC in this intelligent agent that we've engineered called Amy or Andrew or Scheduler, and describe in natural language what you want done. Something like, hey, Amy, can you get Adam and I together for half an hour at my office, first week of October, call it tech due diligence. And now the agent needs to understand, who is Dennis? What is his core set of preferences? Did I make any other promise for Dennis over this last week? What did he ask me to do now? These distinct constraints. And with that in mind, assemble an email and email Adam. And Adam will then try to kind of figure something out, and upon conclusion, send out an invite. But I think the foundation is really just one for where I want you to not think about scheduling meetings. I want you to think of that very similar to kind of you and me, Adam. We signed pretty much all of our contracts by printing out a piece of paper, running to the printer, scanning it, sending it out a PDF. But it's no more than, 4 or 5 years ago, we kind of moved over. I haven't signed anything.
No, it's all DocuSign. It's everything.
It's all DocuSign, right? Or EchoSign, or whatever you signed up for.
Any kind of digital virtual signature, right?
It's going to be the same with scheduling, as in that will just turn digital. And I think we are riding that wave as we speak. Oh, certainly. I hope so. I'm obviously a betting.
Obviously, I mean, you're doing that, but and that's incredible too. But what makes your product different? I mean, listen, I talked to a lot of founders, specifically in this automation space. A lot of folks I talk to are in the recruitment space where they're trying to automate certain steps of it too. How is your product different than some of the other ones out there? What's it different than Calendly?
So Calendly does mostly one-on-one external meetings. As in, here is my availability, go pick a time. Once you pick the time, you and me will get together. I am sure you couldn't imagine sharing a Calendly link with your colleague. That seems kind of like almost rude. Not because it's a bad product.
It's a little informal, right?
Yeah, but with a colleague, that's like crazy talk. So we allow you to kind of, say you're inside Slack. You can just say, / Amy, get me and Adam together for 10 minutes later this afternoon. Call it product design or new feature. That is us allowing you to use the solution to schedule internal meetings. We also schedule multi-participant meetings. Hey, Amy, can you get me, Adam, Suzanne, John, and Tom together first week of December? Now, you need to negotiate with multiple people.
Right. I mean, that becomes a back and forth. I mean, previously that was a nightmare having to go back. Tom, when are you available? Susan's available. She's out of town these days. She has booked up that meeting. She has a standing meeting that day. She's out for lunch. She's with her kids.
So I think where we do well will be on 2 dimensions. One, we do both internal meetings and multi-participant meetings. That's the one dimension, just more types of meetings. The other one is that we're the only ones in market. Doesn't mean that we're going to win, but we're the only ones in market with this email agent, for you can describe the meeting you want and the agent will reach out to people. That is a distinct kind of technical feature that we have. It's kind of like Expensify. You can go add your receipts, or you can take a picture of them. We're kind of similar where you can just write the email.
Yeah, no, I dig it, man. And talk to me about those early days. How did you get the word on the street? How did you spread build that awareness and the advocacy of the product?
In any startup, you should try to only solve one of 2 problems. It is a market problem or it's a technical problem. If you're trying to solve both at the same time, you're in a in for a world of pain. So say virtual reality. Hey, I'm a fan. I believe in some techno utopia based on virtual reality, but here you have to sell both the market and you have to invent the technology. Now, we made the assumption that the market just agrees with us. This is a pain. So it's all about inventing the technology. And if the market agrees, you actually don't need to do much selling. What you need to make sure is that you are exposed in the right places. So people say, yeah, I also hate that. So if you have some sort of way to alleviate that pain, I'm game. So when we started, we ran this wait list like any other kind of tech company. But
you have to build some excitement around it.
Yeah, but we ran up hundreds of thousands of people who wanted to kind of see this disappear. And that was certainly a good beginning to the venture.
Interesting. And how was that initial uptick? Like, what was that? How did you create that excitement? How did you create that energy, that want, that demand?
So we didn't allow everybody to use the solution in the early days. So you had to be on a wait list. But the way you can move up on that wait list was by sharing this with your friends. So people fought to kind of get further up that wait list and get access.
I remember now I remember. Okay, so yes. Now I remember it because I got that email. Now it's coming back to me. I got that. And I remember it was like in like groups of like 5 or 10,000 at a time. There was some small number, and then you waited and you got on the next one. So you created an artificial demand. I mean, was the demand really there? Like now, it's been a couple of years later. Was that manufactured?
So here's the funny thing. I wish I could tell you, that was all just an engineered growth hack. No, it was actually a technical defect for where we were super hungry to label this data. So we're really trying to make these super sophisticated predictions on natural language, which is not a solved science, by the way. And to do that, we need to label all this data. And we simply couldn't label enough data. So we needed to do a limited intake. And that was really just a technical constraint, but it turned into be, it's a really great growth hack. But I wish I could tell you that was the design, but that was actually.
I love it, right? So you had to load test the system, right? You had to see what it could handle there. So now you open up the floodgates, the product starts coming in. Talk to us a little bit about the feedback loop. How did you manage and how did you go out and solicit real-time feedback from the users? And how did you adapt and change the product real time?
There's certainly nothing better, at least to begin with, if you're an active user of your own product. Sometimes that is just not possible. You are writing code for an industry for where it's just not feasible, right? For where you can write code for the aviation industry, but you're not flying every day. But I schedule meetings every day. Certainly me and my team, we're just active users, as in I use the product 40, 50 times a week. Every week, week in, week out. And that adds up to about 1,000 meetings a year. So that's certainly a good beginning, that you have intimate knowledge of, is this working or not? Do I like it or not? Why didn't I use it here? Or when I used it here, why didn't that feel right? So that's kind of step one, if you're so lucky that you could be an active user. The next one is that I initially invited, kind of very first step, 50 friends who I knew were kind of in middle management, drowning in meetings, having no help, saying, guys, I'm going to help you out. We're going to dedicate people full-time to only make you happy. But I need you to kind of provide me some feedback. We did that with the first 50 people who were close enough to say, if I get access early and the only thing I have to do is kind of give you a little bit of feedback, great. Then we
you want to give an incentive.
Yeah, just hey, I get early access. I need to get feedback. So that certainly worked very well. And then later on, we actually implemented it so you could provide feedback in every step of the product in kind of just natural language. This I didn't like, this I liked, this I rate 5 stars, this I rate 1 star. And everybody does that, and you should really do it. But it provided a very good signal of, so reschedules on short notice aren't working as well as we had hoped for. What is the difference between reschedules on short notice and reschedules on a longer notice.
There was a lot of learning there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was real time learning. So let's fast forward. How many current folks do you have working in the company?
We are about 24 fully remote people. Went fully remote 16 months ago or something like that.
So it really wasn't that big of a transition, right? I mean, you had a few people working on site with you in the WeWork there, but everyone was remote anyway. How did you instill culture? How did you build culture pre-COVID, and how did that change, as of mid-March?
I'm certainly a fan of mission-driven culture, as in you believe there's something worth solving for here. We can talk about all the processes that we would put in place to kind of run a company and do so efficiently. But why are you here? And do you believe in at least the potential glory that comes attached to us solving this on the other side? And for that, everybody can go check it out. It's public. I wrote a pledge. It's on x.ai/pledge, which is really more a half-page poem. And you should think of it really as the true offer letter. So your offer letter is just me making sure that there's some sort of contractual bind between you and me, so I pay you on time. But of course I'm going to pay you on time. I said, why wouldn't I? If I didn't, you wouldn't be here for more than 3 weeks, and that's it. So forget about all of those contracts. No, read that pledge. And in the early days, here's the funny thing. My counsel thought I was a complete idiot. I actually positively forced people to sign that pledge, and he kept kind of screaming at me, saying, "Dennis, this is not a legal document.
It's not." So
what are you doing,
Dennis? Give us a high-level overview of what that pledge is.
It will say things, and you can read it.
I will after this.
Say things like, "Me looking for people who are comfortable in the dark," and now some people are leaning in, and some people are kind of tuning out. I said, Dennis, if you're hiring people on statements like whether they're comfortable in the dark or not, you're crazy. I'm not going to work for you. Or you get to hire people, say, like my co-founder, Marcus, who spent years at CERN, confirming the Higgs boson particle together with all the remaining kind of brilliant people there. But for him, he wanted to be in an environment where the answer is not yet clear. I'm actually only comfortable in the dark. As in, I want to be able to know that we might not make it, but that's the exciting part. We can't have people but if you don't know whether we're going to turn left or right in 7 weeks from now, that's too chaotic, or I need more security. I need an ad server where I know exactly what we are working on here and why it's going to work on the other side. So the whole thing is about the type of individual we would like to work with, not about your skills, but who you are as a person. It's just a picture of that. And if you can see yourself in that kind of half page, then you know I need to work with these people.
I like it. That's a good one. And have you scaled the team? Have you had to kind of remain flat, furlough, let go of people? What's the current status of your team?
So we had,
if you don't mind me asking.
No, be super transparent. As in, everybody should know. And if I'm telling you something that they didn't know and they'll be surprised, I'm happy I told them. So the most likely outcome of my venture and any other venture is that we go belly up. As in, that's the most likely outcome of any startup.
Any startup, the failure rate's incredibly high.
And that's the fun part. As in, that's why it's.
And the fun part is surviving, just like
COVID. As in, just
similarities are insane, right? Like startup, COVID, want to survive, want to make it through the other side, right? So maybe get some money, maybe get some of that sweet government cheddar.
So for us, there's kind of two parts to it. There's the data which we needed to assemble. So we knew that for a period of time, we would need to hire a large amount of people to help label that data. So we hired about 100 people full-time for about 4 years to sit and label that data set. So we had a corpus of about 32 million hand-labeled data points that we can go create models on top. That was extremely expensive. And we thought we could do it faster with less people, but we couldn't. But once we did that, well, job kind of done, and we need to let those people go. And we did that in June of 2018 or something like that. But that was kind of the bulk of people that came and went, but it was a kind of very distinct part of our venture. And the other part, sure, there's some elasticity in that, and we contracted a little bit just to kind of preserve cash as we kind of are in what I thought would be uncertain times, but for us have been, and I'm saying this with the utmost empathy, by the way, have been very good times. As in, we had kind of plus 100% growth since March alone.
That's the silver lining, man. I mean, I was going to get to that in a little bit. I mean, listen, there are companies that are thriving, and there are companies that are in a tough spot, and we're going to talk about that with my next guest, Eric, in a little bit, in the transportation industry, which has been affected, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Dennis, let's bring it home here. What do you think is the most important quality for someone to be successful as an entrepreneur?
I would pick a few things.
Yes, you're allowed multiple. Today we're cool with multiple options.
Cool. First one, you need to be emotionally detached. That sounds like a negative.
Right.
So let me explain a little bit. I've seen too many people attach their life's worth to the success of their company. Mm-hmm. As in, if it's successful, they're on top of the world. If it's not, they are one click short of being depressive. You need to look at startup as nothing but a sport. We're professional footballers. We play many games. You lose some, you win some, you go home. My wife, my kids, they love me whether I win or lose. So just detach yourself from the company and just see it as a game. You play to win, but it's just a game. You know what? I'm a happy kid. I make a few monies, I lose a few monies. It doesn't matter. Just play the game to the best of your ability. But it's a game.
Yeah, that's a good one. Dennis,
it's kind of like Roger Federer. Yeah. As in, the first time he lost a tennis game, he didn't say, you know what? I'm the worst. I shouldn't do this. He just kept practicing. So that's the first one. I'm quickly going to tell the other one. Focus. You need to be able to just do one thing and be ultra focused on it for a long period of time. Not over the weekend, not over the summer, for years on end.
Everyone wants immediate satisfaction, immediate gratification in this world, and it's crazy. And I think that's a byproduct of just social media, right? Yeah. It's that chase. It's chasing the serotonin dragon, right? Everybody needs that constant reward, recognition. They need it. They want it now. They want success. And I think that's a problem right now, where people aren't playing the long game. And it takes years. You mentioned you've been at this for 24 years. Right? Did I get the number right? 24 years. And you've had successes and failures, and that's built up your resiliency. And people think they could just jump in and be an entrepreneur. And the first failure that they have, they say, screw it, I'm done. And that's just not the right mindset.
Not at all. And that brings us kind of to another kind of perhaps personal recommendation of mine. Entrepreneurship should probably be a lifelong career, not as you slightly rudely described I read an article on TechCrunch. I also want to make $20 million. Let me be an entrepreneur. I quit my job. Shit, it didn't work. Let me go back to Morgan Stanley. Then you didn't really want it. No, you need to kind of lean in and just apply the grind, but not as a negative. As in, it's kind of like running a marathon, where sometimes between mile, I don't know, 14 and 21, you fucking hate it. But at the end, hey, we should sign up for Boston next year. This is kind of fun, right? But you need to lean into it and just enjoy some of that grind.
Absolutely. Dennis, this has been great. I got my next guest, Eric, coming in. But leave us with one last personal thought here. What is that thing, that person, that North Star that you keep in focus when things are good, when things are bad, when you need to pull yourself up? What is that central North Star for you, Dennis? What is your why, man? Why do you do what you do?
So I do this for the love of the game. As in, I just want to get to the end and sit with my kids and grandkids and say, you know what? Shit, that was crazy. Oh, we had a lot of fun. And that's all I want. Just do it for the love of the game. As in, it can't be something for where all you think about is what I might make when I get to the end. As in, if this venture works, I might make a few monies. No, you need to do it because, you know what? I love playing tennis, or I love playing football, or I love doing startups. Do it because of that. And if you do it because of that, the rest, you don't want to even think about it. Oh, hey, we made some monies. Great. Forget about that. I'll just get a new laptop and then I'm on, to another game.
Good stuff. Dennis, thank you for joining me. I'm going to bring Eric in, but tell everyone where they could find you, where they could learn more.
What's
up, Eric?
What's up? Everywhere on the internet on Dennis Mortensen, and they should immediately go to x.ai, sign up for a free trial, and give it a whirl, and send me some feedback on dennis@human.x.ai.
That's awesome. Hey, Dennis, thanks for joining us today. I will catch up with you offline. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Cheers.
All right. Now, the second game of the podcast doubleheader today, long overdue. Erik Okon, welcome. It's been a long time coming.
What's up, bro? How are you?
I am doing well. I love the sound of a good microphone and my good headphones.
Yeah, I copied Gary Vee, I must say, and Joe Rogan. It's the Shure microphone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, it's can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't, right? And I tell people, I go, you don't have to go crazy. This is my second microphone. I started with the Blue Yeti, which I think is like the beginner microphone. And I found out once we went COVID in March and I was doing a lot of shows from home that my Blue Yeti would literally pick up I could hear the landscapers outside, I call it the suburban hum.
Yeah.
And it picked up everything. And one of my tech buddies like, dude, you got to get a dynamic mic, right? Dynamic. Yeah. And I was looking around and I saw the Shure and I'm like, that's a little pricey right now. It's great though. I mean, you sound excellent.
Yeah, it's $200. We had a studio in our office.
Right. It's not even that expensive.
This is $200.
Yeah. I mean, this one is $60. This is a Shure that I have here. It's a great microphone and it does. I'm sorry. This is a Samsung. Same thing as a Shure. There's two of them here. As you could hear every little rattle as I make here.
You sound
but
great.
It's these little advancements and you upgrade, right? Everything's about upgrading in life. I had this conversation with a buddy the other day. I upgraded my headphones from my original ones. Yep. And you upgrade your kit. Well, awesome, man. Great to connect. So before we jump in, why don't you give my audience a little bit of background and tell us who you are and what you do, man?
Sure. I work with my family. We run a worldwide executive car service. We have 10 locations across the United States, along with hundreds and actually thousands of affiliate partners around the globe that are an extension of our service. In addition, my bro and I have a podcast called Okon Bros, and it's everywhere that podcasts are available on YouTube, on Spotify and whatnot.
And Michael's checking in right now. Look, there he is. Hey, let's get him up on the screen. There we go. Look at that.
Bro. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, bro. We got the bros here. I'm gonna get my bro on one time. We can have a bro fest.
We're going live. We go live every Wednesday night, and it's kind of we do like an SS Anything. You guys are more than welcome to come on, and we would have a great time.
I think I should get my brother on one day. He's interesting. He doesn't do what we do. He's a guidance counselor here in Merrick, which I'm sure he has some great stories about COVID. I never even thought about that. Hey, Rick. So family company, give us a little bit of the history. Take us to the timeline.
Yeah. So my parents started BLS right around 50 years ago on their kitchen in Long Island. And my dad was an immigrant from Poland, made his way through Israel to the United States. And he didn't speak the language very well. He wasn't educated all that much. So what do? You drive a car. Yeah. So he started hustling the Empire State Building, fell in love with my mom. And my mom, who was a history teacher, said he went to her and he's like, I can't speak the language very well. I need help in the office. Come dispatch the cars for me. And that was how BLS began. And she literally went in the yellow pages from A to Z and started cold calling people. She cold called limousine services. She cold called wedding places and stuff like that. We don't do weddings and proms and bar mitzvahs now. We do, executive celebrity type transportation. And it just grew from there, from a family business. And we still are a family business. That's at the core of what we do. Pre-COVID, we had right around 750 employees. Mm-hmm. And today we're inching up. I want to say we're right around 145 to 150 right now.
That's these guys took a big hit.
Huge.
Yeah, that's huge. And I want to get to that in a minute, but I want to focus a little bit on the family business element because I find it fascinating and inspiring. And I'm smiling as you say that. It's funny. We were away this weekend with some good friends of ours, and my friend Yelena's father, Russian immigrant, and that's what he did. He drove a car for years. And listen, it's honorable. I mean, it's a job. People need to get places, right? And when you build your own business and you're responsible for it and you're responsible for other people, there's a lot on that. There's a lot there. So let's take us back to the early days, right? When you and your brother were growing up. A couple of questions here. One, what were your thoughts early on when you were a kid, when you first, kind of understood what your parents did for a living and more the fact that they owned and built a business and everything that went into it?
It was always part of my life. I mean, when we were growing up in Syosset, it was my mom was dispatching from the kitchen. So it was just so matter of fact to us that we would answer the phone and it could be a celebrity or a director or, some high powered hedge fund guy that we're like, hold on, my mommy's throwing up. She's like, like, what do we know? Like we were little kids.
Right.
It was just so matter of fact that we just grew up with it. And when did we start realizing, oh, what do mommy and daddy do? I want to say like I was in a haze probably till I was 26.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole show about the haze days.
Like it's like you don't know what real life is
No.
until you know what real life is. And it was, probably until then where I was like, oh, so this is what it really takes to like run a business, and these decisions are real. Because before then, I'll come out in our limo, we're gonna go out. Like I've never taken the subway before. Like why would I? Because I never needed to. So we lived a sheltered life in that respect, but it was just always so part of our lives. And growing up, it was never a question of whether we were going to go into the business or not. We were always going to go in.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, what were some of those early lessons that you learned from watching your parents?
Family first. I mean, like one of our core tenets at BLS is you treat everybody like your number one client, right? So whether they work for you, work beside them, or they give you one ride a year, or they give you 100 rides a day, or thousands of rides per year, you treat everybody the same. And if you treat everybody the same, you're gonna have amazing things happen. Amazing things happen.
It's such a simple principle, and so many people fail at that.
Yep.
And you're in the hospitality business. Listen, what your company does is not unique. There's a million things out there. So you need to differentiate. And that's a true definition of a brand. I learned this from David Breer, who I had on last week. And I love this definition. I'm stealing from him. It's how do you differentiate? What makes McDonald's different than Burger King, right? I mean, yes, it's a little bit different, but it's still food. It's still food. It's still a hamburger. So how do you differentiate? And one of the things that I deeply admire, I mean, we've just been connected through a little bit. Big shout out to D-Rock for connecting us. Big shout out there. Love the D-Rock over at Vayner. He makes Gary look good. It's about brand building, right? It's about differentiating. And one of the things that I've admired is how you've built a presence here on LinkedIn, specifically LinkedIn. And there's not a lot of folks in your industry that do that. No. I really have not seen that. And it's an aesthetic, it's a feel, it's a tone, and it's messaging. And I respect it, and I've been noticing. So kudos on that one. When did you and your brother take over the family business?
Well,
or get involved. Let's talk about get involved. Like when did well, let me back it up for a second here. Did you have other jobs and did you work for other people before getting into the family business, or did you know that you were always destined? It was the only choice or decision or what you wanted to do?
Our father was a tough guy, and he was in the Israeli army. And
they don't make him like that anymore.
Yeah, no, they don't make him like that anymore. And we were always told no. Can we do this? No. So everything that we always wanted to do, we had to fight for. We had to work for. We wanted to work in the business. Oh, well, Michael has to go work at Abercrombie and Fitch. I worked at Starbucks to see what the real world is like, carrying around, a bag of discarded coffee beans to the garbage when finally my parents would come and they're looking at me through the parking lot and smiling and they're like, are you ready now? And I'm
Karate
ready
Kid
now.
Shit here.
Yeah. But always, I mean, growing up, we would, during the summer, we didn't go to summer camp. We would go out to LA. My parents would entertain clients, and then we would go to dinners and stuff like that. So it was always just so part of the life. But working was right after high school, when in between college classes on the weekend, we would go into our office and we would answer phones. We would wash cars. We would spark plugs, the whole 9 yards.
So you have to know everything inside out about the car. You need to understand the maintenance. And I assume that you have your own, mechanics and
many. Yeah,
crew, we have many. Right. So you need to know how that works, right? So you need to know that you're not getting ripped off. You need to know that you're hiring the right people. You need to know that when you're talking to a distributor manufacturer, that you know what the hell you're talking about. So just like any other business, you need to know every single element to that. Right. And let's get into hiring and firing too. I mean, what is that first thing that you look for when hiring a driver? A chauffeur. You guys call them chauffeurs, right?
Yeah, we call them chauffeurs. I mean, you don't go to school to become a chauffeur, right? It's not like in London, you go to school to become a chauffeur. So, I mean, hiring anybody, we always tell them that when you come work for us, it's a family, and we're going to give you a rope, and either you can climb the rope or you can hang yourself with the rope. It's going to be whatever you make of your position is what it's going to be. We have drivers that have been working with us for 30 years that they put their kids through college because they were working and they were driving a car, and it's an honorable profession, and you can make a living at it, and you can drive. The access that these drivers get, very few people in the world get access to the people,
and the trust that you're giving them. I mean, listen, every life is valuable, but sometimes you're driving around celebrities. I mean, you're right, and that takes a trust and a level of what the hell the word? You have to be freaking quiet, right? You have to be
discreet.
Discreet. That's the word, because you're hearing conversations in cars. You're hearing a lot of things. You're seeing a lot of things.
Yep.
And how do you measure trust? Is it the same rope?
Yeah, it's the same rope, and the clients are going to sniff out a bad driver right away. They're not keep their
mouth shut. They ask too many questions. They act like a fanboy.
Yeah, they're gonna sniff it out right away. Where, if a driver was driving too fast, too slow, it's like a Little Miss Muffet, where everything has to be just right.
And I'm sure there's referrals, and I'm sure it's also a relatively small world where the driver, you hear what's happening and people talk.
We didn't have salespeople until about 3 years ago. My father passed away February 2018, and he ran the business a certain way, and very successfully. He ran it in a way where it was discreet, it was word of mouth, it was a private car service that everybody knew, but nobody knew anything about. They didn't know the owners, they didn't know anything, and it was great.
Interesting approach there. It's very, very, very Eastern European mentality there.
Yeah. Everything was very low key. But then he passed away, and my mom and my brother and I, which my mom is still the CEO, I'm the COO, my brother's president. But we all make decisions together, and we got together and we're like, okay, what are we doing? Are we gonna keep doing what we were doing, which is fine, or do we want to be the biggest and best car service in the world? And we decided we wanted to be the biggest and best car service in the world. And throughout this pandemic, we've hired more salespeople because we smell blood in the water. Because there's not going to be a lot of companies that are going to be able to make it out in a time like this. The reality of the business is that now there's no more forbearances. Now insurance isn't going to say we're not giving you 3 months off anymore in your insurance. Your car payments that you have these brand new cars and they're not rolling, you have to continue to pay for these cars. Yeah. So it's an ongoing, challenge to make it work.
Absolutely. So before we talk about COVID,
sure,
if you leave out the names, we could leave any identifiable details, but share one crazy car service celebrity story.
One of our drivers, he unfortunately passed away. Not anything to do with COVID, but he passed away a few years ago. But he was one of the most requested drivers that we ever have. And one of the people that he drove is the godfather of his children. That's how close that he would get to. And this is,
you're with them all the time.
This is one of the biggest celebrities ever. Just, like ever. Like if I would say, I can tell you off the air, but whoever it is, it's beyond comprehension of the things that go on.
But you have to remember too, these are still human beings, and you're spending time with them in the car. And like, it's always interesting when you talk about celebrities. They're still. What did Michael say? Ozzy. This is a fun one. This is a fun one here.
He did.
Ozzy threw up in our car in the 80s.
My dad. Hold on one second. My dad was. It's coming back to me now. Michael brought that up. When my dad was driving, he was driving. Paul McCartney and Michael, help me out. Paul McCartney and who else? Paul McCartney and
was it another Beatle, or was it?
And Elton John.
In the car together,
they were in the car together, and
to be a fly on the wall on that one.
Yeah, and my dad didn't know who they were. He had no idea, but he was at Giant Stadium and he was downstairs, and they said, "Okay, David, we'll see you later," and they went out to go perform. And my mom's like, "You drove who?" Because like obviously, she's like, "But my dad was an immigrant. He had no idea who these people were."
It's a good one.
But it's
But going back to that, right? Like going back to what I went off on a tangent, and as a host, it was John Lennon moron.
Yeah,
he says,
"Thank you, Michael. Need Michael on the show."
There we go. Yeah, he could chime in. He could send the link. celebrities are humans. They're everybody else too. And I think that, when they have an opportunity to just have a human on human conversation in a car for a long period of time, going to the airport, it just keeps them relatable, having just a normal conversation. And the drivers are those guys and gals, right? They're the ones there on the receiving end of it. So you need somebody who could hold that conversation, keep it confidential, be discreet about it, and also just be professional at the same time.
It's a chemistry thing. In the back of the car, it's chemistry, where you have to match up the correct chauffeur with the correct passenger.
How do you go about that for some of the real high-end celebs?
Well, some chauffeurs are far and above where you can send them on the road to anybody and they're going to knock it out of the park. But even sometimes someone may say, please don't ever send me that chauffeur again.
Right.
And it's the dispatcher knowing the situation, knowing who we're driving, and knowing who that chauffeur is to go and match them up correctly.
Yeah. And just out of personal curiosity, I mean, how do you train some of them from a security perspective as well too? Listen, I mean, some celebrities travel with their own, security with them in the car and everything, but they could just roll up at a red light and all of a sudden, people are knocking on the windows.
Yeah, I mean, they're trained in defensive driving. It's safe, professional, and discreet. Those are all hallmarks of how we train our chauffeurs. We're not security, so we're not pretending to be that. We don't provide armed chauffeurs or anything like that. It's that there are celebrities where they don't get into cars like us because they only drive with security, and you could imagine who those people are, where they're they're larger than life. But the majority of work that we do doesn't necessarily mean that the celebrity that we're driving is actually paying for it. It's going to be a studio that's paying for it.
Right. It could be a production or something doing that. So let's shift a little bit, right? March 2020. For me, my date was March 13th. That was my date. What was your date?
Right around there.
Yeah.
Right around there.
Tell me that feeling when it became real. You're like, holy shit, this is a pandemic. And you knew immediately that it was going to affect your business directly. Take us back to that day.
Yeah, we saw the storm coming, and within 24 hours, we went remote. And then from there, it was just slowly saying, okay, when 2 weeks, business is going to come back. 3 weeks, business is going to come back. And then it was very real that we were like, okay, yeah, business is not going to be coming back anytime soon. Still, we're blessed that we picked the entertainment industry as our mainstay because they're filming again.
Yeah.
Corporate travel people are not corporate traveling.
Nope.
They're just not, which that was a large portion of our business. But luckily right now they are filming. But back to, we went into war mode, and we hunkered down. And luckily one of our other core business philosophies is, one was treating everybody like a client. Number two is every city that we go and operate in, we always go out of our way to buy the building that we're operating out of.
Interesting.
And what that does is it creates something to borrow against. And while we would love to have it for us, right? We would love to have it for us where, on a rainy day, we can cash out, we can take out our home equity, whatever. That was always the plan. But always in the back of our minds, it's, okay, what happens if the shit does hit the fan? Now, all the other, I don't want to say all the other companies, but majority of companies, if you only borrow against revenue, what happens if there is no revenue?
No, you go to deep hole. Yeah.
Right. So we have our assets, and we borrow against our assets, and that is what is keeping us afloat. And in addition to PPP, and we're waiting on our lovely government to get another round of that, which would be much appreciated. So hopefully in the next few days that'll happen. But yeah, that has been what has gotten us through this time period, and we have more where that came from, which is good news.
And I feel optimistic, right? I mean, there'll be a second wave, but we're going to come back. I mean, we even see, you have the data in front of you. Has there been a slight uptick post Labor Day in New York City and some of the other major cities? People going back to work? People
are going back to work. We have a lot of financial firms, lawyers and whatnot, and they're very, very slowly dipping their toes in the water of actually going back to work.
Right. But they don't want to go on the subway. So they're, or Long Island Railroad, whatever, Metro North. So they're it's an expense, right, for their people. And let's be honest, these folks could afford it. I mean, your service is at a premium because it's a premium product and it appeals to a certain sectors and level, and they could afford it. And you know what? They want to get people back in the office, and that's good for you guys. It's a silver lining.
Our travel is nuanced. It's not, you can't press a button And
It's not Uber.
to do the type of travel that we do, you can't press a button. Listen, Uber's amazing. It stepped up our game in our industry where technology followed, and that was awesome because it was always lagging. Nobody ever really cared. So now it upped the game with technology across the board. It's not just pressing the button.
I remember when I was early in my career and I would get the car vouchers. It would literally be a piece of paper or dial 7 or something, and I'd get a voucher and I'd have to call up and give the number, and it upped the game. Uber and Lyft they changed the game.
Yes, absolutely. And for that, we thank them. And Uber did not affect us whatsoever in our 9 out of the 10 markets that we're operating in. We have an office in Las Vegas. We got decimated by Uber in Vegas because the business there is all transient. So
there's not. I mean, unless you're in the industry, you're coming in and out, right? Like it's all people coming in on vacations and they're just going to wrap.
Exactly. So we shifted gears and we started working with the inside of the hotels by the concierge desk and by being
curated travel partner.
Not a lot of people know this. I don't know why anybody wouldn't know, but MGM Resorts has the largest limousine fleet in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Exactly.
I mean, they have that's new to me.
They own 160 limousines.
Wow.
Huge. Absolutely massive. So we work with them. We're back up to their fleet. If you ever go to Vegas and you stay at the Aria, Planet Hollywood, many other property hotels, and you come down and you want a limo, chances are it's going to be one of our cars staging at those properties.
Let's talk about Vegas for a second there. What are you seeing in Vegas? I mean, people were going back there pretty early. I was talking to my wife because we were looking for a getaway, and I'm like, do you want to just hop on a plane and go to Vegas? She's like, no way. I don't know. I don't know if I want to be inside of a hotel, man. Recycle there.
Let me tell you something. Who would have thunk everybody wants to eat, drink, and gamble during COVID? Because they do. They do. And believe it or not, that has been a saving grace in our world because people are going to Vegas every weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. People are going there.
It's busy there again.
Oh
right?
yeah. It's busy. We do weddings there. We have a wedding chapel. They booked 5 stretches for Saturday to shuttle them all around because they have so many weddings that day. So yeah, people are partying. Wow. People don't want to go back to work, but they want to party.
No, it's crazy. It's scary. So let's take it to COVID. And I think what was the number, the pre-COVID staff number? How many?
We had right around 750 employees.
Oh man. So tell me what that was like. I mean, these people you said are your family. These people you say are your family. They've been with you for a long time. Is it temporary? Was it a furlough? How do you have those conversations, man?
It was horrible. It was horrible, but luckily they had the unemployment, which softened it. And actually we're bringing back people, and not a lot of people want to come back. Hiring has been kind of hard.
Really?
Especially at the $15 to $20 an hour type level, because they're making just as much sitting home.
Well, I was having that conversation earlier with somebody that unemployment is a lot of money, and I mean, relatively speaking, versus wages that are in that $15 to $20. It basically equates to unemployment. So why would anybody want to work?
Yep. Very, very hard. So it was brutal. We didn't know the things that we can do. You didn't know what you were capable of basically when this happened, because it's the end of the world, right? I mean, we're in travel, and travel was completely decimated. You think about these things. Oh, what happens if? But there is a silver lining to a lot of it. We were able to hire a lot of great salespeople that were laid off from other companies.
Interesting.
And that's where we decided that we were going to invest our money into the marketplace, onto LinkedIn, onto Facebook, LinkedIn
seems so logical. I mean, you're going for those professionals. I mean, there's some good spots there.
LinkedIn is where the money's at.
Yeah, I mean,
no doubt about that.
Courses on that too. And you mentioned, the silver linings. Have you had to pivot the business in any way? I mean, like, are you kind of downsizing it? Do you think the downsize is going to be a permanent thing, or are you hoping to scale back up?
I don't think it's going to be permanent. I think we're going to hire everyone back and then some. And I think it's going to take some time. I think it's going to take probably about 2 years to get back to those levels. But I think we're going to be a lean, mean fighting machine when that rolls around. And I think there is going to be less business to go around, but there's going to be less companies around to take those orders. So there's going to be a lot less competition.
There's a lot of fat trimming. Speaking of that, what's it like to work with your brother?
Great. No, it's great. I have no. Michael and I, we're partners. We're yin and yang. And believe it or not, like getting interviewed.
Who's older?
Michael's older. He's got 5 years on me. He's 42. I'm 37. So I'm turning 38 in January. But we had like a Van Halen thing type going on where, this is a learned skill for me. So to get up on a podcast and to talk and to do this, like I had to get out of my comfort zone.
Of course, it's the biggest thing on podcasting, man.
To do this. And Michael was always the front man. He was the David Lee Roth, controlling the crowd, entertaining the clients, doing all that stuff.
So you're David over Sammy in your Van Halen universe.
Michael was, we're David. Yeah, come on. Is it even a question?
I don't disagree.
They're both good. They're both good.
Yeah, I mean, David Lee Roth is a showman. I mean, he's one of the best frontmen in the history of rock and roll. I mean, listen, but Sam, I mean, I like Sam. I could go for the Sammy voice,
Michael was the David Lee Roth. I was the Eddie Van Halen, and making the music, making things happen in the background and operations. And as I started coming out of my shell, I realized that if we want to take things to the next level, then I have to do what I got to do, and I have to get up on stage and I have to talk. So
that's
you get my brother. Are you getting my brother on right now?
Yeah, which we're trying to. We have the technology there. What do you dislike about working with your brother?
I mean, I can't say much. I mean, he is a pain in the ass. Like we have to watch each other.
Yeah.
It's fine. But that's what we're there for. We bring each other back down to earth all the time.
Well, I think that's a good thing too. And
I will say he is a shitty golf player. Shitty at golf.
Well, let me ask you this question though, from a business perspective. I have a lot of friends who've been playing golf and they like to drink a little bit on the course. I mean, have you found that the golf coverage just picked up a little bit?
What do you mean the golf coverage?
Like driving folks to and from golf?
We never really did that.
Really?
Yeah. No, maybe in Vegas a little bit.
In Vegas, yeah.
But not here. It's all business here. People going to meetings, they're going to the airport, when they were going to the airport. But yeah, it's and let's talk about mom for a minute there. How has mom changed? There he is. Let's bring him in there. Let's bring in Michael. Michael, what's happening, man?
I'm fucking resting on the couch, listening to my little schmucky brother. I'm listening to fucking Paz give this incredible interview. And my brother's like,
oh, here we go.
He's doing a great job. And thank you for having me on. And I just told my wife, I'm like, they want me on the podcast. And she starts cracking up.
The pause, we got to jump on. Let me tell you something technically here. I'm kind of pissed off at YouTube, and I thought it was a rumor. Somebody was telling me that when you multi-stream to YouTube, that they suppress from other channels. It suppresses from other channels, and I've seen it over the last week, and it's kind of frustrating. And I might pull off of YouTube and just, dear YouTube, I'm pulling out. You might.
Wait, what are they doing? Because we live stream to YouTube also.
I've seen when I multi-stream across, and I've seen this only recently because my numbers have gone down, and maybe it's just you guys. Just kidding. I've seen the live audience numbers go down recently with YouTube integration. It's been a strange phenomenon.
Interesting.
And I was talking to one of my techie friends, but that's a subject for another day. So I want to talk about mom for a little bit, and it had to be tough, and real sorry that you lost your father, and that, I mean, the patriarch. And
sure,
how did your mom step up?
Mom wears many hats, man. I mean, mom is, she's not some just like, you should have her on the podcast. Yeah. You want to talk about a real show. She's got, I don't know if you have any.
She taught us everything we know.
Yeah, like
everything, everything that she wrote 80 children's books.
Really?
She's the CEO of BLS. She's a practicing medium now. I don't know if you believe in that stuff, but on last Wednesday,
yes and no. Yeah, I've seen it in front of my eyes. Yeah, I'm a believer.
We had her on the show, and she was reading random people from the internet, and they were gushing tears and stuff like that. So whatever she's doing, she's onto something. But no, everything that we know, we learned from her: how to sell, how to be fathers, how to. It's her core tenets, and we all work together. But it's definitely, she's the CEO of BLS. No doubt about it. She's an absolute rock star.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it there. So Eric, let me ask you this question. What does the word legacy mean to you?
What's the word legacy? I mean, it means everything. Legacy means everything. It's my children, and that's why we do what we do, because it is a family business, and it's the full intention that my kids and Michael's kids are going to be working in the company one day.
What if they told you, Mike, let's just level set here. Eric, give us a background. How many kids? How old?
I have a 10-year-old and a 10-year-old girl, 6-year-old boy. Michael.
I got a 12-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. So we're in the even years now. It's
You're off a little bit. What if they come to you and they said, we're not interested in running the family business?
I got to tell you, somewhat like my former nurse is like following me on Facebook, and I got Erica. I just want to give you a heads up. Erica and I joined Facebook 2 weeks ago. Okay,
really?
That's how late to the game we are.
Good on you. You didn't miss anything.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, we didn't really care what our ex-girlfriends were doing, but apparently they're coming out of the woodworks now.
They're all trying to find.
They're all coming out of the woodwork now. But I did a picture of my son. It was National Daughters Day, and I posted a picture of my daughter, and I posted a picture of my son. And my son, I said, my buddy, my future business partner, and my Alexander, because his name is Alexander. And I said, Happy National Sons Day, son. And everyone's like, oh my God, great picture, beautiful. You guys look so happy, blah, 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 blah. And my nurse from my high school is like, what if he doesn't want to be in business with you?
Who asked you?
And so I said, I'm like, he expressed to me that he wanted to be in business. Eric and I always knew we were going to be in business together. We shared a bedroom for 14 years together. We vacationed together. We went to school together. So Eric and I are as thick as thieves, and we taught our children that same manner. And if they turn around and go, listen, I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or a dentist, we're going to say, God bless you. We always wanted a lawyer in the family, or we always wanted a doctor in the family. But it's they still have to be part of a family.
I can see the writing on the wall with my kids. I was not good in school. I failed out of college. I graduated high school early, not because I was smart at school, but just because I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I see the writing on the wall with my kids. They're not interested in school. So I can't give them an education, a traditional education, but I can give them a business that they can come into and they can make it work.
The legacy family business is incredible. And you guys have built an empire, and you think that they want to take it. So are there steps that you take now? Like, you bring your kids to work. How do you incorporate them into the family business? And not just from the day-to-day operational sense, but the values, right? The real core values that your dad started, your mom built, and you guys have taken over. How do you continue that?
It's a great questions.
Go ahead,
first and foremost, our children see how much fun Eric and I are having. All right, like we don't own a mortuary. We don't own a morgue, right? We own a limousine service that drives celebrities. So like,
it's fun.
If my kids are watching SpongeBob and we see the producers of SpongeBob, be like, oh yeah, we saw their name in the car the other day.
Yeah.
So like my kids, they're generally our children. I say, and when I say my kids, I mean Eric's kids too, because
of course,
we're all in this together. Eric and I live a mile apart. All right. We're a mile away from each other.
We're neighbors. We're neighbors.
Not COVID. I'm in Long Beach right now. We could have done this live.
You're in Long Beach, bro?
I'm in Long Beach. There I am. There's
my God. I heard the accent. I was thinking.
I'm in Long Beach. Look, I'll even put. I'm in live from Bridgeworks. There we go.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
Back to the family thing.
We own a limousine service that caters to the entertainment industry. We drive, like Eric said, the most powerful people in the world, the most influential people in the world, and we do the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, the Kids' Choice
Awards. Our job, if we want our kids to be in this business, it's our job to make sure that it's fun for them. And we make them feel important. We make them part of the conversation. Right before this, we were on the meeting with a lawyer, and my daughter comes in. She's like, "Hi guys," it's like it's part of the whole thing.
COVID.
We have also a book business. I'm a writer. I don't want to shamelessly plug my book, but Monster.
Show.
Yeah, no. I've written 20 books. I have 3 of them that actually got published, and I have a whole team behind me in LA trying to get my books turned into films. And my son saw me writing books, and he helped me do the comic book of it. He's an incredible.
That's great.
He loves to draw. He got published when he was in kindergarten.
Whaley's Big Adventure.
Wow. He had this stuffed whale that he loved, and he drew
look at that.
These pictures, and we wrote a book, him and I together, and we got it published. And like, I wasn't saying to him, you have to publish. You have to do this. I say, hey, Alex, you want to write a book with me? My daughter and I were in the process of writing a book now. As long as we make it fun and inviting and their ideas count, that's really, really important.
I love it.
My son is 12 years old. He's the oldest of the bunch. But if Eric's son has an idea who's 6 years old, my 12-year-old has to listen to that 6-year-old to say, listen, this is all together. We're all in this together. So.
Are your kids as close as you guys are?
Yeah.
They're very close.
Yeah. My son and daughter are thick as thieves. Those
I love
two.
it.
Yeah, they're thick. You have kids, Adam?
Yeah, I have I have an 8-year-old daughter. She's in 3rd grade back in school, and I have a 2-year-old son. So right there with you guys, man. It's
my daughter's 8 years old too, man.
It's amazing. It's a great age, right? They're sassy as hell, but they're still little girls, and it's been it's a fun age. Like sometimes she's just sassy and she's a teenager, acts like a teenager, and then the next breath, she's daddy's little girl, and it's amazing. And I know I only have another year or 2 of this, and then it's gone.
Does your daughter understand what this podcast is? Because our children every day say, when can we come back on the podcast?
She loves that I'm on YouTube, and she was guest 74 on my show, and she loves that I did. Yeah, I filmed it. It's actually a crazy episode. It was a live show that I filmed on New Year's Eve day. New Year's Eve, of last year. And we were talking about like predictions for 2020 and things that we're looking forward to. And like, I look back on it, I'm like, shit, like that time capsule. So I'm going to do the same exact show with her on the last day of this year. And I'm going to make it a tradition.
Wonderful. That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have the kids on the podcast all the time.
Why not?
And it's great. And
it's a time capsule, right? It's like they're going to look back on it and like these are our tapes. These are our family tapes, and she loves it, and she loves it. Everything that I do, I involve her. I'm doing a rebrand that's coming out tomorrow. Like I ask her advice on it. Like it's real.
What's amazing to me about the podcast, and the best part about our podcast, Okon Bros, is that when Michael and I, when we first started the podcast, we're like, man, we wish mom and dad did this. We wish there was a fly on the wall thinking about what they were doing in 1981, right? Just like the fly, building the business. And then, we're like, man, I wish we were able to record building BLS from ground zero. Well, be careful what you wish for, because we got that.
Yeah.
And now we recorded all of COVID. Our thoughts, and the hurt, the wins, all of it, we were able to record, and that is the number one thing. The legacy that you spoke about is the number one thing that we're giving to our children, that they can go back and know what we were thinking at that time.
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's bring it home here. I want to wrap this one up, Michael. If there was one thing you could change about Eric, what would it be?
Oh, his golf game.
It's that bad.
Golf game. I got to tell you. So we played.
I started lessons.
He asked me the question, bro.
All right, go ahead.
We played Bethpage Black on Sunday. My cousin Matthew.
It's a lot of walking.
Matthew. It was great. We love the walking is the best part.
Yeah,
we played Black. Oh, I mean,
there's a time and a place.
Drink too much.
Exactly.
We're shitty enough at it.
Yeah,
so.
You don't need to handicap yourself more.
I have the tolerance of a 15-year-old little girl. I mean, I one drink, one martini, you gotta. I'll do anything. I'll clean your windows, And we played Bethpage Black on Sunday, and it was just a culmination of Eric's shittiness in his golf game. And it was just this, he lost ball after ball after ball.
You had 2 good shots, first of all.
They were 2 better than yours, right? I had 2. What would I change for my bro? What would I change for my bro besides his golf shot? His level of patience. Eric is very concrete, and when he wants something, he has very little patience for people. He's gotten much, much better about it. And but that's one thing that Eric, very, 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 very impatient. But there is a strength to that as well, that when we want to get something done, Eric is the most. Eric is never indecisive.
Yeah, it's a superpower.
I had a call yesterday with a screenwriter who's going to be turning this book into a screenplay, and we're going to go out with my manager and get a director attached and sell it. And these are this is top level people. This is not like an indie people.
Nice.
And I called Eric. I'm like, Eric, what do you think? They want this? He's like, do it. Yes, done. No, I don't think about it.
I don't dilly dally.
Decisiveness is a huge trait here. So let's bring it home here. Eric, what is your superpower, and not something that Michael just said?
My superpower? Oh gosh,
that's a great question.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I
thought you were gonna ask me about what I don't like about Michael.
It's not going to change anything about.
Yeah, I know. It's an impossible question.
So that's a curveball of being a podcast host. When you have 2 guests on, the second guest thinks you can ask the same question back to them.
Brilliant.
I rarely do it. So I have like this Jacob deGrom mind. I'm a Mets fan, right? So I think about deGrom, the way he pitches, and the way he, oh god, it's terrible. And the way his mindset, his approach to the game, and he'll literally throw for the first 5 innings nothing but fastballs, like nothing. Like they know it's coming, and then out of nowhere in the bottom of the fifth, he'll just start throwing junk balls, sliders, mixing it up there too. And that's how you're a good podcast host.
That's
like
poker. That's poker.
I thought about it. Thank you for talking.
I gave you a minute. And that's another technique of a podcast host. When the guest can't think of the answer, you got to stall for them.
Yes. No, I love it.
I've been doing a lot of these.
You're like a regular Casey Kasem.
I like it. No, you're awesome.
Pause is top 40.
You're fast, man. You got it. Go ahead, Eric. What's your superpower, bro?
We give enough time.
Superpower would definitely be I can leave my emotions. I can be analytical with my decisions, and I don't account for how I feel about something to make the correct decision.
Take emotion out of the business decision. I love it. Guys, let's bring it home here. This has been great. Let's do it again before the end of the year. We'll do a brother episode. We'll figure it out. Love to come on your show and shoot the shit. Tell you a little bit about my story.
Pause. We want you on, man.
We'll make it work. Even though we're a few miles apart, we'll be together soon. Eventually, tell everyone out there, where could they find you? Where could they learn more?
We're on LinkedIn, Erik Okon, Michael Okon on LinkedIn. Look up our show called Okon Bros, where it's on YouTube, iTunes, Google, Apple, the whole 9 yards. We just interviewed Sid Ganis, who was the former president of Paramount Pictures. He was the president of the Oscars.
Boom.
He produced Adam Sandler movies. So we have really great guests where we just interview them, and nothing's rehearsed. Just like Adam, nothing's rehearsed. We don't pre-think what we're going to ask, and we think that makes for the greatest show ever.
Adam, you got to join Okon Bros, man. Eric, get him on.
We'll figure it out.
I want to know all about you. I want you. Your
personality. There's a lot, man. We'll keep it going. But I do have to sign off because I do have a client call in a little bit that if I am not ready for, that's real shit. The stuff that pays the bills, the positive fun. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and everyone watching on the replay. The replay is where the gold is. Remember that the replay is where the gold is, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. You know where to find us. Stay 6 feet apart. Wash your hands. Take care of each other, and find us thepodcast.com, and catch us next week for another great episode. Hang on, guys. All right.